Welcome to Mallet and Michelle on Dripping Springs, hosted by me, Michelle Lewis, and Steve Mallet. Steve, have you ever looked at somebody and just thought, my heart has no room for you, but my trunk does?
Michelle, I think that all the time.
I try to be a good person, but it's sometimes just people. There's just people.
It's funny. The older I get, the more people I want to put in my trunk, too. It's funny that you say that because my Michelleism for today is Michelle Lewis, who woke up recently at 4:30 a.m. to help a friend just because she's a good person.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Are you making it a habit, this getting up at 4:30?
Hail to the no. There are very few people I will get up at 4:30 in the morning. First, one person, Queen Elizabeth. It's happened within the last month.
That's twice this year.
Yeah,
that
twice
you saw
this
the
year.
sunrise.
But I'm Mama Lewis. That's my name. I have many children that I haven't birthed, but I did get up at 4 a.m. this morning.
How come?
There was some howling outside of my bedroom window. Todd slept through the whole thing. I don't know. I don't know what it was, but it was freaky.
Keep your dogs inside.
Yeah, it was.
Those
it was
little
weird.
tiny dogs you got would be a quick little meal for
snack,
a coyote.
A little snack.
Snacky snack.
My kitty cat was outside my door. She's an outdoor kitty, and so yeah, I don't know what that was, but.
Hey, you remember last week on the episode we were talking about, is it Coach Balto?
Yes, Coach Balto.
From Portland that leads the kids on the bike ride to school every day. And one of the comments we made was, kids get outside and they can enjoy the day and they can't be on their phones because they're riding their bike. Well, I tested that theory this weekend. Went for a bike ride with my buddy Chuck to celebrate his 64th birthday. We were supposed to do 64 miles, but we ended up doing 69.
On a bicycle?
On a bicycle.
Not in a car. I don't even like to drive 64 miles in
That's
a
an
car.
hour drive in a car. Yeah, it was actually a great day. It was we went out towards the Willow City and the Willow City Loop, which is beautiful around wildflower time. But we missed one of our turns, and I got on my phone while I'm riding, going 15, 20 miles an hour, and I'm looking at my phone, trying to see the map where the next turn's coming up, and I didn't realize Chuck came up along beside me, and when I turned my head to see where they were, because I was with Chuck and Carl, Chuck was there, and I veered into him, and I hit him, and the first thing that went through my head is, I can't take Chuck out on his 64th birthday ride, so I fell off the side of the road and rolled into the grass and scabbed my knee.
Maybe he clipped you on purpose because you took him on a 64-mile bike ride. Maybe
there was no compassion there. Carl and Chuck pulled up alongside me, and I'm laying there in the grass like, you okay? Come on, let's go. Like, no compassion. But
how did
anyway,
you
kids,
feel?
do not look at your phone when you're riding your bicycle.
Well, how'd you feel after that ride?
I felt great. I just about killed Chuck. It was a hard ride for him, but he doesn't ride as much as I do. So it was a fun day. It got hot. I got pretty sunburned, but it was fun. That's a beautiful place to go for a ride.
My claim to fame on my bicycle, and I was a grown ass woman when I did this. I was riding my bicycle, and I'm looking at the trees, and I'm actually off a Convict Hill, riding the bicycle, and boom! I hit a stop sign. My face.
You're supposed to stop, not literally, Michelle. You're not supposed to like, boom, stop. You can just go to a nice gradual stop.
I'm a klutz. I'm a total klutz. But I wasn't
ride with you.
I wasn't looking at my phone. You couldn't ride with me. Although I probably could ride with you in just like one of those little kid strollers.
Yeah. I'm gonna put you in the back.
I'll ride with you. I'll ride with you. Hey, I got an idea. I'll ride with you. I'll play on my phone while you bicycle me around.
Just tell us where to go. Yeah.
Coming to a city near you, Mallet and Michelle bike ride.
Yeah. I found a story this week about exotic furry friends you can own in Texas.
Exotic furry friends. Well,
these are animals that you can legally own in Texas.
Okay.
Which are not mostly native to Texas, as far as I can tell. Do you know what a capybara is?
No.
They're called they're beaver-like, and they're called water pigs. Yes, I know.
I've been called a water pig before too.
Have you ever seen nutria down on Town Lake? They look like gigantic rats, like 30-pound rats.
No.
Well, capybara is like a gigantic version of that, but they're mostly found in South America. But you can legally own one of those. And the only downside to owning one of them is they have a less than polite habit of eating their own poop. So you got that going for you.
Oh, I want one of those.
Yeah. How about lemurs? Maybe you heard a lemur this morning out in your backyard.
Lemur? Yo, they're so cute though.
Yeah.
You can own a lemur?
Apparently they're very loud though. If you get one that's older and you're not bonded to it, they can be pretty mean.
You know what I think is disgusting? A cute exotic furry friend is a ferret, because they smell.
Oh,
they're cute, but they smell. Is that on one of them?
That actually kinkajou. Have you ever heard of kinkajou?
No.
So sometimes they're called honey bears. They have a nasty smell,
Musky.
Yeah, but this is more like a skunk.
Why the heck
if
would
they're
you?
really mad at you, they'll spray that. So people keep them in their house, but they eat insects and fruit and nectar from flower buds.
I almost hit a skunk at 4:30 in the morning yesterday.
Yeah, they're out. I don't know why they're all out that early in the morning. It seems like they only come out right in the fall. Bush babies? That's Shut. You're like a 12-year-old, Michelle.
Aren't all babies bush babies?
Oh my God. Okay, can't make it up. The only problem with bush babies is they like to rub themselves with their own urine. We might need to take a break, folks. she's gone.
The bush babies.
Okay, Codamundi.
Codamundi, nope.
Which is, it looks like a cross between a raccoon and a badger. It's got these gigantic teeth. I'm like, who the heck would want to have one of these as a pet?
I can't get over bush baby. I'm like, I can't even go on.
For the next week, you're just going to randomly say that around
can't
the
even
office.
go. I am. I'd be like, bush baby.
Yeah. I was talking about the nutria. I've got a little nutria story. I was swimming one morning in Barton Springs. Like a friend of mine, this was 4 or 5 years ago. We used to get up Saturday and go swim in Barton Springs before the sun came up. So it was dark, which is kind of cool. It sounds creepy, but it's actually kind of cool because there's lights and stuff from this parking lot and everything. And I'm swimming along and I hit this furry thing. And the first thought that goes through my head is
bush baby.
No. My first thought was, who the hell is throwing a ball for their golden retriever at 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the morning? And this furry thing hits me on my arm and my shoulder, crawls, kind of goes over my head, and then swims off the other way. And I didn't think much about it for a second because I thought it was a dog. And so I looked up and it was one of those nutria. I had swam into it and it climbed up the bank on the other side.
Oh, that's the
Barton
ooh
Springs.
factor. I think I would have rather have had a bush baby.
That's what it was. It was a bush baby.
Ooh, that's gross. That's gross. So, midterm elections are coming up.
Yes.
I know
What's
we have
the date? November
8th.
Yeah.
I know we have a lot of new residents here in Texas, and if you did not register to vote by October 11th, too bad. You missed the date.
Yep.
But early voting starts October 24th through November 4th. October 24th through November 4th. But we have a lot of on the table this year. Not only are we the U.S. House, State Senate. I guess we have the U.S. House. We have all 38 seats. State Senate, all 31 seats. State House, all 150 seats. We have the governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, and of course the state courts and various other local seats. But we've got this border crisis that's going on, the fentanyl issues.
We need to do an episode where we talk about the fentanyl crisis. I heard the other day that the number one cause for males between 18 and 40, I think it was, is fentanyl.
This is just
the number one cause of death.
This is insane.
Yeah.
The scariness of this. School safety, election integrity, and of course, coming on the colder weather, the power grid concerns that we have. And in Dripping Springs, we are going to be talking about this bond election, this school bond election. So,
which I encourage everybody. I think there's a website that the school district has put up to talk about the benefits of the bond and how that works. I guess there's 3 parts of it that we're going to vote on.
We've been to several talks and listening to the superintendent explain it. Quite honestly, I think that I'm pro bond. I think I'm going to vote for it. I think that a new school, the school infrastructures and things like that are very much needed. Just kind of what I've heard from it. So
I think there's a lot of people out there that are just like, I pay enough in taxes as it is, especially if you don't have kids in school anymore. But I know. So what I was going to say is do your research on it, because it isn't necessarily going to. It's
not raising your taxes in the traditional sense that you think it would raise your taxes. Right. Yeah.
But
so
do your research on it before you go vote on it. I think the worst thing people can do is just go in the voting booth and just punch buttons like a 4-year-old. Everything you vote on, know what you're voting on.
I have been guilty about that.
Well,
I really have.
Everybody's been guilty of it on some level.
There have been times where I have voted on that. I hate to admit this, but I have voted on people like a racehorse. Oh, that name is cute.
Yeah.
And now I think I'm older. I'm more invested. My daughter told me the other day, she goes, I'm not as into politics as you are. And I said, honey, when you start owning a home and you start really paying attention, everything is about politics.
Well, she has not filed her first tax return for this new job she has she? Nope. I'll bet you she'll get into politics when she starts figuring out how much she's going to pay in income tax.
That's right. I mean, she pays attention, but she doesn't pay it. She's that's all you talk about.
It's funny because there's an old saying, something about if you're young and you're not progressive, then you have no heart. And if you're older and you're not conservative with how much government you want in your life, then you have no sense. Meaning, as you get older, you accrue more assets, you tend to make more money. And if you're just about government intrusion in your business and your home, and, then those things are all bad as you get older. But when you're younger, you're very idealistic and you want to change the world, and you're not paying any taxes because you don't own a home and you're not really making any money. But
talking about government overreach, and also to kind of circle back, people you want to put in your trunk. Earlier this year, Congress voted, and it was very hush hush. It wasn't really.
It was actually the end of 2021.
2021. Yeah. Wasn't really talked about. And now I'm starting to hear some noise about it. But by the year 2026, Congress and Biden signed into law that your car can now be used against you in a court of law. And basically what that means is car makers are now going to be required to start monitoring drivers for impaired driving. Mm-hmm. And that could mean a host of a lot of things, whether it's drunk driving or distracted texting and driving, eating and driving, shushing your kids in the back seat and driving. But there's several ways, but unspecified ways, because it hasn't been specified on how they're going to do this. So these are speculations. They can put a breathalyzer in there. Now, breathalyzers are known to be inaccurate, and they need...
The technology's not there yet.
No, they need constant maintenance and calibration.
And modification and calibration.
Absolutely. Yeah. Attention tracking AI for signs of distraction. But some people think that this has shown to show prejudice and discrimination for people with like tics or disabilities, facial.
I've got a family member that has Tourette's, and
my father had Tourette's. So
if they're not inebriated, they haven't had any kind of substance, and maybe their head's moving a funny way. The thing that was interesting about that article that you pointed out is that the AP fact checked it and said that there is no
kill switch.
But then if you read the article, it clearly defines that there would be some device in the car that would make it inoperative if it decided that you were not.
Oh, absolutely. And
you were not capable.
There are also more invasive devices that can track and measure vitals real time. Yeah. So I don't know what exactly that means, but there are some perimeters that lose perimeters. Route. There are some things that they have set forth, but the technology must passively monitor either driving performance or driver blood alcohol levels. So when you're talking about the kill switch, I just think that also this could be more of a push for electric cars, because that stuff kind of all builds in, and then they can have a central location where they can turn your car off, whether you have a social credit score or whatever you're doing, or it's a push. And this was one of the articles that I read, for more public transportation. How does public transportation work in this? Like, how many people are driving in from 12 miles away into Dripping Springs to go to work. How would that work for me?
Bigger picture than that is that we now have this government that doesn't trust the people to make good choices. Now they're forcing people to make the choices that the government decides they need to make.
Well, I find it ironic because wasn't Nancy Pelosi's husband stopped for drunk driving?
The contradictions and the irony in our leadership is everywhere all the time.
Astounding. Yeah, it is astounding.
But that used to be that we were raised, you make good choices in life. And if you make bad choices, then you live with the repercussions of that. Now it's like, no, you can't even decide how you want to run your life. The government's going to mandate how you want to run, how you're going to run your life.
Similar to Gavin Newsom, the great governor of the great state of California that passed a bill, or I don't really know the logistics of all of this, but that doctors cannot disagree with politicians. That is not even within their scope of practice.
It's not exactly how it's written, but it is that if there's a government office that decides if something that a doctor says is misinformation, if this government organization says, well, that doctor's preaching misinformation, then they can take away their medical license.
So a politician who has no training,
which is funny because the same people that push for that are the people that say the government should not get in between a woman and her doctor in her health care decisions. So talk about ironies and contradictions. I mean, there's some right there, but I don't even know how anybody with any sense could live in California anymore. It feels like they are intentionally burning that state down.
It's a firestorm, among other things, politically, morally, environmentally. It's a firestorm, and it's sad because it is a beautiful, beautiful state. But
well, there's in Oregon, which is run very much the same way. Apparently, there is a chance they're going to elect some Republican senators and possibly a Republican governor.
I saw that Tulsi Gabbard just endorsed that Oregon.
One of this coffee shop in downtown Portland had a couple weeks ago started advertising conversations with a cop. So they were going to have a local police officer come in and sit down and take questions from the community. I thought, what a great idea. Mm-hmm. Well,
kind of like what we're doing. Yeah, get to know the people.
Get to know your neighbors, right? And ask them questions. Apparently, some underground group there got word of this and broke into that coffee shop and destroyed it. It blows your mind. Come on, people. That's like the best thing we can do. Let's sit down with our neighbors and have conversations with them. Get to know their point of view. Impart on them our point of view. But no, you can't even have conversations. So people in Portland, Seattle, and Washington and Oregon, those people are fed up. Mm-hmm. The people that are paying the bills there, they're fed up. Yeah. So there's going to be some big changes out there.
Well, let's fingers crossed.
Yeah. I got a light story I wanted to touch real quick. And then did we forget to talk about who our guests are?
Actually,
again?
Because we were laughing so much at the beginning and we had to re-record at the very beginning.
Yes, yeah. Well, so we're a little late now, 19 minutes into our show, but we are going to have Dina and Joey Schechter come on in a few minutes and talk to us about their business of short-term rentals.
Management and running and
the hospitality business.
That's we have recently got into this.
Yes. Learned a lot. I was telling a friend of mine last night that getting into this, I thought it was going to be a lot of work, and it's been
twice as much, 3 times.
No, it's been 10 times as much work as I expected it to be. You might have had a different expectation. I was thinking, beep, 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 order this, order that, boop, and ready, and then maybe booked solid all the time, and it's been nothing like that.
I can tell you I wasn't as scared as I was of doing this podcast.
It's funny that there's 2 big things we did this year. We started a podcast, which has been amazing.
And the STRs.
And then we did a short-term rental, and Boy, talk about two steep learning curves. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I got a story the other day. Do you wear Levi's?
I do. I used to wear button fly 501 all throughout high school, but that's the only jeans that Todd will wear normally unless I buy them. Different.
I haven't worn Levi's in at least 20 years.
I will wear red tag Levi's. There's a difference. I don't know if you know that or not.
I don't have a single pair of Levi's. There was a pair of Levi's that just sold at auction. They were made in 1880 and they were found in a mine shaft in New Mexico. And they were covered in wax drops because in 1880, when you went down in a mine shaft, there weren't no electric lights. You lit the way with a candle. So
you lit your pants on fire?
Yeah, no. But these jeans were just found in the dirt down in the bottom of this mine shaft. Can you imagine going down in a cave, going down in a mine shaft and seeing a little pile of just trash there and then pulling them out?
That's cool.
And it's a pair of jeans from 1880.
How much did they sell for?
So I'll get to that. So there's a one patch, one pocket on the back. It had suspender buttons on the front. Okay. They were put up for auction and sold for $76,000 to a vintage denim collector who is 23 years old.
Wait, this one says $87,000.
No, it was $87,000 because they sold at $76,000 and then the auction house adds on $11,000 for their fee.
Oh.
So, or whatever that is. $9,000. What was it? So, anyway,
87.
Anyway, they add a premium on there. But here's the funny thing. So when those were made in 1880, there was a movement going on in the United States where, a bunch of people from China had come over. Remember, San Francisco had a big Chinese contingent, people that came over. Well, there was a sort of anti-Chinese sentiment in this country. And there was a patch inside these jeans that said, only kind made by white labor.
What?
Yes. This patch is still in these jeans. Only kind made by white labor. Which is obviously completely racist, which was basically saying, you know what, we don't use Chinese labor. So my question coming out of
So they use white labor, but not, that's weird.
But my question is, if we're canceling people today for something that they wrote 30 years ago that was racist in the context of today, which was more acceptable to say 30 years ago, why is anybody in this country wearing Levi's now? When 150 years ago, their company motto was only kind made by white labor.
I don't have an answer for that. That's interesting. But I guess there's a lot of...
Yeah, there's a picture of them there. We should post that on our social media.
There's a lot of things that are... that were said in the past that I guess could have racist connotations.
We can't do that. We can't take the context of today and transport it back in time and say that is racist or bigoted or homophobic or whatever, because things were different 30 years ago.
What about Bush Baby?
Bush Baby was always funny, Michelle. Oh. And on that note, let's take a quick little break and get Dina and Joey in here.
Yes.
So sit tight. We'll be right back.
This show is brought to you in part by the Mallet Integrity Team, serving Dripping Springs, Austin, and the surrounding areas of Central Texas since 2004. When you need the best real estate advice and service, give them a call at 512-829-2062 or email them at malletintegrityteam.com. And now here's Steve and Michelle.
All right, and we're back, and we're here with Dina and Joey Schechter.
Did you say it right? Did he say it right?
Sure did, yeah.
Schechter, look at that. Related to the Schechter Formula One driver from the 50s?
Unfortunately not.
Oh,
no.
dang it.
See, look, I even had it pulled up just in case.
I saw that up there.
Did you know about Jody Schechter?
I did not.
Really?
He spells it a little different, but pretty
look
close.
at that.
Yeah, it's got a K instead of the H there.
Yep. He was a South African Formula One driver.
Huh. Maybe a long lost soul.
Yeah, I never know. So you guys own some property out here in Dripping Springs. What brought you out here to Dripping?
Go ahead.
Dripping is, one of those places that we were always kind of fascinated with. Dina brought me out to Lucky Arrow Retreat last year or 2 years ago, maybe now. For my birthday, she surprised me and took me on a glamping trip, and we kind of just fell in love with the glamping experience and the great outdoors here of Dripping. And we're like, well, we want to do this for ourselves. And being in the short-term rental game, we started looking at other stuff and properties in the area and stumbled upon Infinity Ranch, which was started by another local company here, or local couple here in Dripping Springs, and just kind of ran with it, and here we are.
Where is it located?
It's off of
Plant Lady.
Plant Lady Lane,
yeah.
off of McGregor and 71. Yeah.
And so we're going to get into the short-term rental thing, but we want to know a little bit about you guys first. So where'd you grow up?
I'm from Los Angeles, which I know in Austin is a little, yeah.
Where's that button? Where's the button?
There it is.
There you go.
I made the move out here about 8 or 9 years ago now, so not this new wave of transplants, but the,
We'll allow it.
We'll allow it.
Yeah.
In Austin terms, 8 or 9 years, you're almost a local by now.
Yeah.
That's
So,
true.
That's how I feel at this point. Austin is home for me, and I haven't really looked back since.
What do you feel the biggest difference between being here? Because LA and Austin, well, Austin tries to be LA a lot of times, but so what do you think the biggest difference is? The friendliness or just...
It's just, the friendliness is a big thing. And just, it's more of a lax way of life. In LA, everyone's in a rush to get everywhere to their next meeting or audition or whatever it may be. And here, everyone's, still doing what they need to do, but they're not in a rush to do it, and they'll still get it done, kind of thing.
That's what I found when I moved here. And it seems like a lot of the stuff people are doing in California that they're rushing to is not important.
Absolutely
It's
not.
like, I can't talk. I'm on my way to my yoga class.
Yeah. Something that can wait half hour later, you don't have to sit in your car and
My
45 minutes
Starbucks
of
order
traffic.
is waiting.
Did you act? Were you
I did
no?
not act at all. No.
He'd be good at it,
I
but
don't know about that one.
Dina, what about you? Where'd you grow up?
so I'm from New Jersey originally. Again, with that, we
Wow,
had a lot-
opposite sides of the country
yeah,
there.
opposite. So now we're central for our family.
She is thick as thieves.
Yes,
this girl.
family. What is it? Blood is thicker
Yes.
than water. I went to school at James Madison University in Virginia.
Oh.
And then I moved here to help open a restaurant. It's called Uncle Julio's. It started in Dallas, but Austin was going to be their first store. So me and my best friend, never been to Austin. We're like, let's go to Austin and see how this goes.
Wow.
Met a bunch of people. A lot of those people who moved here to open are all still here doing other things, obviously.
How long ago was that?
That was in 2013.
Oh, wow.
And it closed, unfortunately. But
Did it close because of the pandemic?
it did.
Oh.
Yes. Yeah. It was just way too big of a space. It was by the convention center downtown. And they just never got that foot traffic. So that was 2013. So I've been here almost 10 years.
And is that when you guys met during COVID?
So
is that
we
right?
met
Prior to COVID, yeah.
2018. So we were working at a short-term rental startup company. Joey was one of the first 10 employees, so it was still pretty small. He was heading the operations and growth team. So I came on as an operations assistant. And I remember my first day, I show up, excited for my first day of work in heels, ready to go. Wasn't quite sure of the job description, as most startups are. And I walk into this property and they're moving out of a unit, dollies, huge furniture. And he was just like,
I'm sweating in shorts,
Yeah.
trying to just move as quickly as possible because we're on a tight timeline. Yeah. And in walks Dina, and I'm like, she's not going to make it more than a day.
Yeah. And then I went on to be the operations manager of the Austin portfolio. So that's how we met, and a little romance budded.
Yep.
And recently married.
Yeah,
Yes,
in
in
February
February.
this year. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations.
And y'all
Thank
just got
you.
back from Israel.
Yes, we were there last week, just hanging out. Went to go visit some family, and more just relaxed and unplugged a little bit. But we still were working.
Well, Dina told me your family goes there every year.
Almost every year, yeah. COVID stopped them for a few years, but we have some family still in Israel. So my mom's side is there. We went to go visit them, and I have a bunch of friends that are out there, and it's just a beautiful place and a really, relaxing setting in the right place.
Is that the first time you've been there, Dina?
First time, yeah. So we were staying right on the beach in Tel Aviv. It was beautiful. All the food was incredible, so fresh. The hummus was like air. And we obviously wanted to do some of the historical sites, but I recently broke my leg.
Oh yeah.
Back to those heels. Right?
Yes, but they're
The heels
dangerous.
did it.
Tell how you broke your leg. How did that happen?
So I was, just out on the town like a normal 30-year-old person. And I was waiting for my Uber. I was wearing platform heels and, stepped off the curb wrong, and bones are brittle at this age.
Oh, God.
Great. Yeah.
Jeez, Dina, you wait.
Oh, wait till you get to
I'm
this age.
twice your age. I should be breaking every time I take a step if that's the case. Oh, my God. You kind of told us how you got into the short-term rental business from a corporate standpoint.
Right.
How did you get into it for yourselves?
Well, so, we were working for this startup for a long time, and we're like, well, we kind of know the ins and outs of the business, and, we're making other people a good amount of money. Why don't we do this for ourselves kind of thing? And we kind of took the formula that they had created and shifted it a little bit. What we were doing before was more rental arbitrage. So we'd go in and do leases on places as opposed to purchasing them. And so all you really own is the reservations and the furniture inside the unit. And we're like, well, if something happens, you don't really have much to fall back on. And so we raised a little bit of capital, purchased our first home, and renovated it completely, furnished it, and turned it into a rental. And we launched it as soon as COVID hit. And
It was ready right on time.
Yep, right on time for no one to rent it. So
How long did you go without?
we went a few weeks, and then we rented it at just our base minimum for 2 or 3 months, I think, to this girl who had family in Austin, who was actually living in Los Angeles, but wasn't working or doing anything. She's like, I want to be closer to my parents, but I don't want to go live back at my parents' house. So
during that time, we saw a good amount of regional travel. That was kind of, things were a little still uncertain, but people still wanted to go somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. And especially in Texas, I mean, we had a lot of Dallas, Houston, San Antonio just looking to get out of their small space and go to a different space.
And we were a little bit
explore.
more open than a lot of other states were
Absolutely.
too.
Joey, you said base minimum. Is that the minimum amount you could charge and break even?
Yeah, essentially. We weren't making money the first 2 months. Okay. And then after that, we saw things really start to pick up and future bookings really start to pick up. And we're like, well, if we see this is already lined up for the future, we know that there's demand coming back. Mm-hmm. And so we raised a little bit more money, purchased another home, furnished it, and then just rinsed, recycled, and repeated from there. Grew our portfolio. We're now at 8 properties that we own, and then we manage another 12 properties for clients.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so at the beginning of the story, you were talking about a lot of people were leasing. Their formula was to go into existing properties. They lease that property, and then from the lease, they are managing the Airbnb. They don't own the property.
Correct.
There's a couple of those in my neighborhood.
Yeah, and it's still a popular formula now for people who don't have the capital to be able to purchase their own properties. So they'll call it more of a master lease nowadays. It's really tough to do it in apartment complexes, but with more residential landlords, they're more willing to do that kind of stuff.
Right, and you got to follow the local rules.
Absolutely.
Some landlords will be okay with it, but neighborhoods won't, or cities won't.
Yeah, certain HOAs will not allow anything less than like a 30-day minimum. So we had one of our clients, we started, renting her condo out, and the HOA quickly was like, no, we're not okay with this kind of thing. And we're like, that's fine. We'll switch it to a 30-day minimum. And, it actually stays booked up pretty nicely over there. We have more so people who are moving to Austin who need a temporary solution before they purchase a place or go out and lease their own place.
Well, that's smart.
So they'll stay with us for 30 to 90 days or so.
Where do you get the bookings for that?
Bookings come from anywhere, honestly. Airbnb is probably about 90% of our revenue. We recently got direct booking capabilities, so we're able to book directly with us and save service fees. That Airbnb is a little ridiculous with the amount of service fees they charge. So the guests are able to save a little bit of money. We make a little bit more money off of it. And then from there, we're also on VRBO now. We're going to be on booking.com soon. So we try to just have as big of a reach as possible.
Why have you not been on VRBO and booking.com previously?
So it's hard to manage multiple booking sites if you don't have one CRM.
Right.
So we kind of were waiting it out a little bit and seeing which one we wanted to go with. So they charge us a monthly subscription fee. And so, because otherwise the calendars would clash and we
Yes.
have to check both, you know.
Who are you using? That's the $1 million question.
Yes, so we use a company called Guesty, which is actually an Israeli company. That's not the reason that we use them, but I've worked with them in the past before. When we worked at the startup, we started with them before moving on to a more hotel type of system. And Guesty has really come a long way in the past few years and makes, you know, seamless integrations with multiple booking calendars and a lot of automated messaging, automated tasks. So it makes our life a lot easier as we started adding more and more listings, trying to, you know, manage all these things on spreadsheets. Now, you know, everything's just in one central location.
So we're going to ask you a lot of very specific questions. And one of the reasons is I just started my first short-term rental.
Congratulations.
Michelle and I did it together. Well, yeah, thanks.
That's why the stress on his face.
Yeah. I mean, my wife actually was this morning. She was like, you just need to calm down. It's been overwhelming. I expected it to be a lot of work. And Michelle this morning, I said, it's been a lot more work. And she said, like twice as much? I said, no, like 10 times as much.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize what really goes into it and the day-to-day, you know, work that needs to put in addition to just starting it
The
up.
setup part.
We had a 30-minute conversation this morning on sheets, blankets, and towels.
That's true.
And the time that it takes. And then the other day we had a conversation about what each room on average should take to clean. And he's like, really? 30 minutes to clean a bathroom? And I'm like, well, that's like on the high end and you got to do this. And so the conversations that we are having, and at the end of this, he's like, I sell real estate. Right?
Well, when you guys are ready to let that go, you know, we're right here
You know
waiting
what?
for you.
We've had fun with it.
We have.
it is.
And we've learned a lot.
Learning.
And anything you do that's brand new, that initial learning curve is super steep.
Absolutely.
And we're right in the middle of that curve. And I've had the tech problems are the things that, and you guys addressed it by just getting it on Airbnb and running with that. I actually got property management software first.
Okay.
And that just made everything much worse because now I'm trying to, get the place set up, get it on Airbnb, get it on VRBO, get it on
Not get it
Booking.com,
double
and
booked.
learn this new software.
Right.
Yeah. And the very first weekend we had it up, I got it double booked. But anyway.
So
Happens to the best of us.
I have a quick question. And you may or may not know a lot about this, but what are the rules and the regulations regarding the Supreme Court ruling in Texas about the short-term rentals in HOAs and
Yeah, absolutely.
Joey loves this question.
Yeah,
Okay.
I wouldn't call it I have fun with the city, but we go back and forth about it. So the problem is that Austin has 3 different types of permits that they're issuing for short-term rentals. There's non-owner occupied permits, which are type 1, which is if the house is your homestead, you can legally rent it out for 50% of the year. And in addition, you pay occupancy taxes to the city of Austin. Then there's type 2 permits, which is non-owner occupied homes. And then there's type 3 permits, which is for multifamily or commercial buildings, so more rental arbitrage type stuff. Well, they haven't been issuing type 2 permits since, I think, 2018 or
It's
maybe
been a while.
2017.
It's been a while, yeah.
Yeah. And instead, what they'll do is just hit you with a little fine, and they won't let you pay hotel occupancy taxes. And so they're spending more resources kind of not issuing this permit and collecting fines versus what they would be making if they just issued permits.
meaning you're running an Airbnb, like in general, people are running Airbnbs under the radar, just getting the fine because they're not issuing the permit.
How often do you get
Correct.
fined?
It just depends on your neighbor and how often people call on your
So
homes
it's
and
based on
stuff like
somebody
that.
reporting it.
Correct. Yeah. The
They
city
can
now
also-
has software where they're starting to find, things like that also. And at houses where the fines start to add up, all you really need to do is go to a 30-day minimum from there, because then it's not considered a short-term rental anymore. And you don't have to pay the hotel occupancy taxes and such.
Does the HOA have anything to do?
So
with that?
HOAs will have their own category of stuff where they can impose their own things because the land is kind of incorporated by the HOA, but a general property not within an HOA just has to deal with the city of Austin.
So
basically.
a Belterra property cannot have a short-term rental less than 30 days.
Correct.
But built into their deed restrictions, there's probably time restraints and things like that.
Absolutely.
Okay. So there was a misconception about, what this Supreme Court ruling did
so,
do and
yeah,
what it
going
didn't
back
do.
to that, so the Supreme Court ruling, I mean, there was a case in Austin a few years ago where someone took the case, was getting fined, didn't want to pay their fines, and took it up to the Supreme Court, and they said, Texas is a for-land state, and you can kind of do whatever you want to a certain extent with your property, and the city is not allowed to impose these certain restrictions on what you can and cannot do. Now, we see both sides of it. I mean, we don't want our house to be surrounded with Airbnbs and party houses also, but I think there's a healthy mix of things that can happen. And a lot of people see it as just for parties and those kind of things, but I'd say about 50% of our bookings are local people who had a flood in their home and need a place to stay tonight for the next 2 months. Where else are you going to find that? So there is a healthy mix of those kind of things. I don't think every single house on the neighborhood should be a party house, as no one wants that as their
I have one right behind me, and they've had it up for over a year, and it's booked almost every weekend. And we've only had one party back there, and it was a spring break this year, and they kicked them out.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
And we're really good about, vetting the guests that we have beforehand, setting specific house rules and letting them know that kind of behavior is not going to be tolerated. Yeah. And because we are a local and hands-on team, we're able to do, take action when needed if those things do arise.
Tell me how do you let people know on Airbnb or the platforms that you advertise on that you will lease to them for 30 or 60 days? Do you just write it in the comments?
So it's set up where you cannot book it for less than that amount of time. So
you have specific properties that it's only 30 days.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So the one he was talking about earlier, that one's right by Zilker Park, like such a desirable location. So obviously she would have benefited from ACL bookings, but we couldn't have done that, or we couldn't do that. So that one's only listed for 30-day minimums. So that one's only 30-day minimums, and the rest of them are full, and then you can just book if you wanted to do 2-3 months.
Right. They have a 2 or 3 day minimum, but if the calendar happens to be open for a month and a half, then they're welcome to book for that long stay as well.
Do you guys, what kind of discount do you offer them if it's a 2-day minimum and they want 30 days, what kind of discount do you give them?
At 30 days, I think a 20 or 25% discount kicks in. It just depends on the listing and what it's, we play with the prices and the discount. So sometimes we'll bring the price up a little bit, but bring a discount, higher up. It's just a little bit more appealing to a customer.
What do you think the biggest misconceptions are about short-term rentals from a prospective person that's staying in your place versus a hotel? Because when Airbnb first started, it was like, oh, I'm going to rent somebody's room. Wait a minute, I'm going to share the bathroom. And so it has really evolved a long way from how long has it been around? 10,
15
something
years,
like that.
probably,
It's been quite a while.
And VRBO is headquartered out of here, right? Out of Austin?
I think they have a location here also, but VRBO has been around even before Airbnb was around. Now they call it Vrbo and it's owned by Expedia, but before it was vacation rental by owner.
Yes.
And I actually said that the other day, and Dina was like, oh, that's what it stands for?
Yes.
And I was like, yeah, that was the original platform that, anyone can log on and list their vacation rental property. And then Airbnb was more so, hey, we have an extra room in the house. We want to make some income off that, or we have a garage that we've turned into a room. And, you can still find those listings on Airbnb also. And so there's a healthy mix of hosts, from professional hosts kind of like us to people who still have that extra bedroom in their room that they rent out and are just looking for help on their mortgage, essentially.
And the advantage of someone, I personally see when I have rented Airbnbs in the past, it's like when I have my children with me, even now they're adults, but I have capabilities to have a washer and dryer.
Yeah,
exactly.
I have the kitchen that we don't have to eat every single meal out. So it's more of a home-like environment versus just going to a hotel. And, people are like, oh, well, then you've got these service fees that Airbnb or whatever platform imposes. You've got the cleaning fees.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And, or you have this crazy list of rules that when you check out, you've got to strip the bed, you got to do this, you got to mow the lawn.
Most of the rules, though, are pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
Did you read that Wall Street Journal article about some of the crazy things?
Yes.
One of them was
mowing the lawn, right?
You had to mow the lawn.
Oh, boy.
When
Yeah,
you
that's
when
a
you
little
checked out,
crazy.
you had to mow the lawn
and feed the animals.
Yeah.
Well, so feed the animals could be part of an experience
Yeah.
they're offering, but mowing the lawn is not an
in
experience
this
for
case,
anybody.
It wasn't
No,
an
yeah.
experience. Yeah. It was
That's what I
like,
tell
if
my
you're gonna
husband
stay here,
every
you gotta
Saturday.
Feed the cat.
It's an experience to mow the lawn.
Yeah.
So how are you? What are your thoughts about that? About like the cleaning prices that are happening, and I mean I know that there's kind of a big uproar right now that people who are property owners like yourself, they're kind of going after Airbnb on those service fees, and you're like, wait a minute, we're the ones that. We don't even get that. How about help us with the cleaning fees? They're going after the owners on the cleaning fees.
Yeah. So the cleaning fees, ours go directly to our housekeepers.
Yeah.
So actually the team that we use, we worked with them at our initial startup company. It's a mom and pop shop, Jose and Rosie's. They were at our wedding. So they do a wonderful job. So, so 100% of those cleaning fees go to the housekeeper. So these are 3-4 bedroom homes, 1,500 square feet. It's a lot. And
What is your cleaning fee
On
those?
average, do you base
Ranges
them?
from about $200 to $300.
Oh, wow,
It
that's
just
more than
depends
I-
on how
yeah.
many beds there are, how many bathrooms there are, and how many towels need to be stocked up in the house. Because they also take all the linens and towels off site with them. You know, initially when we started, we were doing all the laundry in the house, and you can't do that many loads of laundry when you have someone checking out at 11.
And you guys are passing that right directly on to
Correct,
I
yes.
have mine at 150, and I thought that was a lot, but I found out it doesn't cover the cost of getting
No.
it turned over.
No, and housekeepers aren't that cheap anymore.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah, I
the
know.
price of everything
Yeah.
has gone up, and so has price of cleaning.
And we want them to do a good job, and sometimes, occasionally, not very often, but you do get those party groups, and that's, tape on the walls, streamers, balloons, tons of trash. So we want them to continue to do a good job. So
Yeah. What are the biggest daily challenges you guys have running this business?
Daily challenges, some days can be really quiet and you don't hear from anyone. Everyone's checked in, they're having a good time. And then other days are just nonstop. Our AC is not working. We have a water leak, not enough towels, or the house was dirty. So it just depends. Some days are really quiet. Most of our check-ins for the weekend, so they'll check in on Friday, check out on Sunday. Usually Saturday morning is when we'll hear from most people if they didn't, find something up to their satisfaction or have an issue.
Do you guys have that the customer is always right attitude?
For the most part.
Oh, look at that. Simultaneous.
Does it limit your weekend plans though? Do you
A
think?
little bit. Sometimes we try to schedule more so around it and know to be available at certain times. Like we like going to Lake Travis. We'll usually go, Saturday in the afternoon once we've dealt with all the morning issues, kind of thing like that.
Do you think that, or do you have any story that kind of sticks in your head? Any in names shall remain nameless, that high maintenance guests that you've had that really kind of stick, and you're like, whew, that was a lesson.
You couldn't make them happy.
Yeah, there's certain people that come into it just looking for a free stay, essentially. And so just off the bat, they'll nitpick X, Y, and Z, and then they'll just continue to hound on those specific issues. For us, we try to address everything. And, our goal is if you're not happy in our home and there's nothing we can do to help you feel happy, then maybe you shouldn't stay here and just go find somewhere else.
So,
I'm sorry, but one of the things I'm watching YouTube videos trying to learn about this was if people ask you for a discount up front,
they're usually going to be a problem guest.
That'll be a problem. Yeah,
Absolutely.
What you found. What were you going to say, Dina?
So I was just going to say, one example. We actually have one home that's right down the street from us. It's 4 doors down. So it was a family staying there. Their child was playing outside, I guess, and was kicking the fence. Just, being a kid,
I
whatever.
think they were playing with their soccer ball and they were kicking the soccer ball towards the fence. Yeah. And the neighbor works overnight, so he sleeps during the day.
Oh,
Yeah.
And so that was disrupting him during the day, which, at a typical house, if you're playing outside during the day, is probably not going to bother anyone. But they were almost to the point where they wanted to check out because they felt uncomfortable that the neighbor came and told them to keep it down.
God forbid that their kid was like just
Just being a
outside.
kid.
Yeah.
be respectful though. But be respectful. Somebody's
Exactly.
sleeping. Okay. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, but you don't expect someone to be sleeping at 2 p.m. on a Wednesday, kind
But
of
also,
thing.
no reason to fully check out
Well,
of the.
but I was going to say, and the other part of that is, so you're in town for an event or something, and then you have this slight inconvenience,
Right.
and your plan is to pack your stuff up and go find another
Yeah.
place.
Exactly.
Really?
Like, that's a
that's
hassle.
a much bigger inconvenience than a little 5-minute
Then
drama.
talking
than just
to your
happened.
6-year-old and saying, "Hey, don't kick the ball against the
Absolutely.
fence."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we dropped off Tips treats for them, and complete 180. She was like, "Oh,
Is that all you did to rectify that?
Yes.
You sent them tip
Cookies.
treats and said,
Yep.
yeah, that's a great idea.
Cookies
I love that.
and ice cream is kind of our go-to for, hey,
well, especially with kids."
yeah, with
Yeah.
kids also, but for minor inconveniences, obviously if they have, a big issue, we'll address the issue.
Were they laced
first.
with Benadryl? Benadryl brownies.
Just sugar and love,
I've been doing something kind of Steve's telling me to stay off of, but I've been on some of the message boards and Facebook pages of stuff, tips and tricks. And so one of the questions I asked for you, because this just recently came up on one of them, was would you ever, if you knew about it prior, would you ever allow a home birth in your short-term rental?
Ooh.
That is super interesting.
Yeah.
That is becoming
Can I answer?
Wait,
No.
it is becoming
No.
it's becoming a movement now, and they don't have to tell you, but it is becoming a movement. And
guess not,
the reason why, well, it happens a lot on border areas from other states because some
it.
states
Okay.
don't allow midwives and things like that. But think about it in the sense that if you didn't know, and this home birth,
That's the
took
hardest
place-
part for me
Yeah.
is, I mean, these are huge investments for us, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars. And you imagine some of the stuff that people are going to do to it. You got to get
try
thick
not to think
skin,
about it.
Right?
Oh, that was me shopping for everything. I told Steve every pillow, every blanket, every couch, like sex, sex, sex,
Oh,
sex, sex,
God.
sex, sex.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's how it was for us with the first few. And what we have to describe to our clients also is to kind of detach themselves emotionally from the property and look at it as just a business. And it's really hard to do because, like you said,
That's
it is
very
the
hard.
biggest investment that most people make. And, you put your blood, sweat, and tears into making sure that people have a good experience and furnishing the homes and having this homey feel to them. And at the end of the day, they can do whatever they want inside the home. And just, when they check out, as long as everything looks good, who cares what they did?
How
in
are
the
you
home?
monitoring the comings and goings? Obviously, no cameras inside of the homes, but how
Yeah.
are you monitoring your guests? Like, let's say your house sleeps 5 and 10 people show up. Do you know?
I got this one.
Yeah.
So we do have cameras on the outside of the house, and you do have to disclose that information in the listing. So we do. So
I heard something the other day. Do you disclose that you can get audio? You can get kicked off Airbnb if your camera records audio and you don't put it in the listing. I just found that out.
We'll have to add that in as well because we write that we have all Ring cameras that are motion activated, so they
And
only,
you can hear the audio.
Yes, we
So,
can hear
yeah.
the audio on there.
So what were you saying, Dina?
So we can monitor, groups checking in. So obviously if they said it's a group of 5 and then 20 people check in, we actually just had one of our clients' homes, they pulled up with a full U-Haul.
Oh.
They're going in and out with all their stuff. They were there for, I think, a week?
A week and a half.
A week and a half?
Yeah.
Full, like, I'm not kidding you, moved everything in. They had a bunny cage. Like,
It looked
I
like
was
they
like-
moved their
How did
entire
you guys
house.
handle that?
Was it your old tenant?
Yeah. Actually,
maybe.
that's pretty funny. That's pretty funny. We'll have to talk about that after the show. So how did you handle that?
So yeah, we saw on the the Ring camera that they moved in a big crate with the bunny, and we just sent them a message saying, "Hey, we noticed that a large crate was moved in with an animal inside. We just want to get some more information." The last thing you want to do is place blame on anyone or
That's a
kind of
good way.
Or
accuse
be
them of anything.
controversial.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So you always just ask and see what they'll tell you, kind of thing. So we asked them about it. They're like, "Oh, we're so
Did
sorry."
you email them this?
We sent them through Airbnb
Yeah.
a message, and they're like, "We're so sorry. We're happy to pay like a pet fee or something like that, for the animal being here." I said, "I just wish you guys would have told us beforehand because not every home would be capable of accommodating you guys."
Or suitable, yeah.
Yeah. And, when they checked out, they put this like rubber kind of stuff on all the baseboards and all the sidewalls. I guess bunnies like to chew on wood.
So to protect it.
Oh.
But
But when they left it all on and when we went to go peel all it off, it peeled all the paint
Oh
off
my
with it under it.
gosh.
So we had to send them, an invoice for that later on, which they took care of, which was really
paid
nice.
it.
Yeah. They
So
did
do
take
you
care
send
of
the
it.
invoice through yourself or through Airbnb? Because I've also heard nightmare stories about Airbnb care or something or what?
They have the air cover is what it's called now. Yeah. So, they're pretty good on most things. You just have to be very quick with submitting the request and making sure that you submit all the information that they want.
That's to file a claim with the insurance. But
Correct.
what you did in this case
I went directly to the host first through Airbnb, sent them a payment request for the damages. Now, had they refused to pay the payment request, then I would have escalated it to the air cover and support.
You actually do that through a system in Airbnb, or did you just send them a note saying, okay, there is
Yeah, you can send a payment request through Airbnb.
And some things are just the cost of doing business, right? Towels, sheets, coverlets.
Yeah.
We get a lot of like makeup stains on the towels.
Yeah, we don't charge for that. That's just
it's a cost of doing business. If they're going to damage every single towel in the house, then we'll charge them for it. But a towel here and there kind of thing, things happen, and we don't want to nickel and dime people because they are paying a lot.
I saw a video yesterday, and the guy said $75 is sort of his threshold. If it's $75 that he's got to eat, he's okay. But if it's $100, I'm probably going to charge.
We're learning about, we are not learning about it. I'm explaining to Steve the process of spray tans.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, do you guys have problems with that?
We have problems in our own home.
Yeah.
With that,
Joey.
Joey, you're sleeping on the couch tonight.
We haven't really, though, in
Not
our
in the homes, no. I don't
The
think
very
so.
first rental I had,
Steve was like, "What
they
is
ruined
this?"
2 towels with spray tan.
He thought it was shoe polish. And
No,
then
I
once-
didn't. I
you
thought
said-
somebody wiped their butts with a towel. That's what I
But then
thought
you
it
said
was.
shoe polish, and I was like, "Who uses shoe polish anymore?" And then when I looked, I was like, "Oh, it's spray tan.
Yeah.
it's spray tan stuff." And so we've got the black makeup towels and
Makeup
stuff.
towels,
But
yeah.
but I have to say more than anything, and Steve and I have talked about this over and over again. It has made us think differently when we are now doing this, staying, because normally, especially like a hotel, right? And they've got all the little sample stuff, and take your arm, you're like, whoop, that's going on with me, And now it's like, okay, I'm going to be conscious of what I'm taking.
Somebody has thought about every little thing in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think's the number one key to your success?
I'll go ahead and answer that
Dina.
one. So we're both very hands-on, so I think that helps. It's also nice that majority of our properties are pretty close by. So we try to obviously be more proactive than reactive. So getting everything set up, ready to go. But I would say our number one thing is our communication. So if you look at our reviews across the board, it's 5 stars on communication. So always quick to respond. It's less than an hour, but more often than not, it's within 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So we just make it a point to always communicate with our guests, and we do that with our clients as well. So just kind of keeping them in the loop when they need to be, and then not keeping them in the loop if there's issues.
Not too much.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
And kind of just handling what we can. And then obviously if there's a bigger issue, we'll let them know.
What's the biggest mistakes you guys made when you started that you don't make now?
Being too emotionally invested.
Yeah.
Oh, we're
And
there.
we took every
We're
review.
there.
I am completely.
We took every review to heart as if, they were writing it to just smash us into the ground kind of thing. And it's like, well, we had a great stay, but the couch sucked. And I was like, the couch, I spent a lot of time picking out that couch kind of thing. It's like, well, you can't please everybody, but you have to do enough to please the general majority of things. And like Dina said, just being very reactive when things do happen. People like to know that their issue is being heard and is being worked on also. So whether we're resolving it for them behind the scenes or we need to schedule someone to come out, they just like to know that something is happening and that they're being taken care of. You think about like a long-term lease, people are there for a year. You're like, hey, my fridge isn't working. They're like, hey, we'll be there next week, kind of thing to fix it. Right. Most people are only with us for 2 or 3 days. If they have an issue, we have to resolve that within an hour or 2.
Do you have people on call?
So I'm pretty handy. I go and troubleshoot most things myself first, which helps save us a ton of money also. Yeah. But we also do have a team that does most of our construction on the homes also. So they know, usually when something happens, okay, it's the pipe that's behind this wall or something like that.
Yeah, they did all the work. So they know where things are.
We have a pretty good team of local venders that we use and rely on pretty heavily.
I could see the saving the money part because I had a tenant in one of my rentals, a long-term tenant, and she was always calling and texting me and complaining something was broken. And it was like, I would go, did you check the breaker box?
Yeah.
And she'd go, yes, I checked the breaker box and the breaker's not tripped. And I'd go over there and the breaker was tripped.
Right.
Yeah.
Or there was a GFCI in the garage. I go, is the little yellow light on? She goes, I checked it. It's fine. And I go over there and the GFCI was
But are you
tripped.
supposed to send a handyman over there
Yeah,
otherwise?
I
every
would have spent
time,
$150 to send a handyman over there to go, bink, push the button back
Exactly.
on. Yeah, so I could see that'd save you a lot of money.
So do you're talking about the 5-star reviews and, super host status and so on and so forth. But how much do you focus on getting that perfect 5-star review versus just taking care of your clients or guests?
I think it goes hand in hand. If we do everything to provide a good experience for them, then the 5-star review comes automatically. There's a lot of people that chase, the 5-star reviews and they'll bend over backwards. We didn't have a good time. We're going to refund you $250 or something. Please leave us a 5-star review. That's not the right way to go about business. And then people start learning that and start taking advantage of you also. So if there's things we can do to address them, and
it's
again,
blackmail a little bit, right?
Yeah. But I'd rather, instead of issuing you a refund, I'd rather send you cookies and make that part of your experience, as something that you'll remember and maybe want to come back and book with us again in the future.
And we also try and do that extra step. And so, there was someone staying at the ranch. So the boyfriend, I guess, booked it and he let us know he was going to propose to his girlfriend. So we went there the day before. I hid a bottle of champagne with a little card. So a lot of these people, especially the people who are long-term, we get to know and treat them that way as a friend.
I'm actually
almost.
really looking forward to that part of it, trying to figure out ways to make somebody have a better day. I think that part's going to be really fun.
Yeah.
Tell me, somebody's in our audience, they're listening and they think, I think I'd like to do that. What's step 1, 2, and 3 to get going doing something like this?
Step 1 is, doing research. I'd say do research on your local ordinances, see what you can and can't do, and then, look up locations and see where it's going to perform well, what is not going to perform well. A lot of suburban places do well, and then a lot of, destination places do well, and places in the middle of nowhere can do well. So it's just about doing a little bit of research. There's a really great company called AirDNA, which you can pay a subscription for. You can look up different regions and locations, and they'll kind of tell you occupancy and average rates and stuff like that. But just scour Airbnb also and just look up locations where you want to go. And then from there, find some capital, either a landlord that'll allow you to do.
Can you help us with that?
Yeah.
Find a landlord that'll allow you to do arbitrage, or if you have the capital to purchase your own place.
Define arbitrage.
So arbitrage is strictly it's a lease, essentially. You're going into a property management company or an apartment complex, something like that, and asking them for permission to do short-term rentals, because obviously you could, anyone can go lease a place and release it, but once the building finds out, they're going to kick you out pretty quickly. Right. Which is how a lot of people started. Also, they just leased an apartment on their own name, and then as they grew into a legit company, they transferred their leases over and got permissions from the building.
Yeah. So what's the third step then?
A third step is ordering all your stuff and building
let me tell you a story about that. So I called Michelle in the office when I first started doing this. I said, Michelle, I'm doing a short-term rental. And she said, okay. And I said,
no, you said, Michelle, I got a new project for you.
Actually, you're right. I
Yeah.
did say
Doing
that.
a short-term
Okay.
rental.
So I said, we need to order all the stuff for the house. And she said, okay, well, what's my budget? And I said, $10,000.
That's
and
not
she
gonna do it.
giggled a
Yeah.
little bit. And she goes, maybe 20. I said, well, see what you can do for 10. We blew through 10 in like 5 minutes.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then blew through 20 pretty quick. I now had to paint the inside and the outside.
inside.
So that was 10 grand. But
And we had to get a new refrigerator and washer and dryer and things
I think
like
I
that.
spent close to 40 grand.
Yeah.
Well, for us,
Furniture,
we try
pillows,
to
and everything.
separate like construction aspects,
Yeah.
so painting and that kind of stuff, and then strictly what I'll call like
See?
FF&E,
Yeah.
which is more furniture, fixtures, and stuff that'll go into the house, and then operating supplies also.
And then once we had the house furnished, I told Steve, I said, I want you and Holly to stay there
Yep.
for the weekend. And I want you to see
Get the
how
experience.
how it operates.
Yeah, we
and
call that
fun.
we call it a stress test. Honestly,
Oh,
we put
really?
the house through
Yeah.
a stress test. We put all the systems through use, run all the showers for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Crank the AC, crank the heater. Make sure that the house is really performing the way it's supposed to be, because the last thing you want is your first guest to come in and have a big
Yeah,
issue.
there's no air conditioning.
And I think it was the little things that kind of added up. Like we're like, oh, we don't have a trash can in every room. Oh, and now like you have the consumables. So there's like the staging items, which, I stage, so that was kind of easy for me. But then the consumables was kind of different. And we have an owner's closet, and we're like, it has definitely been a fun learning experience, but it has been
and
an
we're going to
experience.
Duplicate it here in a month.
We're going
or
to do it again.
There we go.
Nice.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Well, yeah.
Steve has a kidney for sale. If
Really. How tech savvy are you two?
We're both pretty
good.
tech savvy. Yeah. Well, we don't code or anything like that, which I think would help us with some things, but we rely on a lot of tech companies that, have great systems in place that could do it a lot better than we could write our own stuff.
Yeah.
It's just about picking the ones that are important to you and the ones that work towards your business. There are so many tech companies out there for short-term rentals and key automation and, having your nests turn
Which
on
just
and off
eats
and all
into
kinds of
your
stuff.
eats into your profit.
Exactly.
It's
And
like
everything's a
$10 here,
subscription service.
there,
And so for us, we try to keep each listing at about $100 in operating expenses for tech oriented stuff between
Per
our
month?
between our property management software, our key software,
And your property management software is Guesty.
Yes.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll ask you about that when we get done. Do you think people get burned out on doing it?
I think definitely yes. We're seeing now as we're hitting that 20 mark, it's a lot. So
That's one of the questions I had. So you guys have 20 now.
20 listings.
20 listings between our own ones, and then also our client managed homes.
Right.
So we're kind of shifting our focus a little bit to bring on more clients. But again, that's just increasing the listings, and it's just the two of us. So at the end of the day, we do have one operations assistant. So she kind of does those pre-checks and post-checks of the house just to report any damage. And she also stocks everything up. But we're getting to that point where we need some more help. And
and then on top of all of that, at some point, you're a young couple and you want to have a family
Absolutely.
too. So,
And even when we just went on vacation, it's like, well, we run everything ourselves. We want to take a vacation. We can't take a vacation because I can't teach everything that we know to a person just to be gone for a week. So, luckily our operations assistant, shout out to Michigan if you're listening.
woo!
Thanks for everything you do. And she really stepped up and helped us out. But it was a good, eye for us of, how important it is for us to be on the ground and,
and have a good support system as well.
And even while we were gone, there was small issues that I was like, well, I can do this myself, but I'm not physically there. I'm a 20-hour flight away. So
You got it. That's Steve. I've experienced that with him when he's gone on vacation just in the real estate business, and he's like, I'm going to check out. I'm not going to do this, and little things happen. And I've been with Steve now almost going 8 years. And
How did you do it? How did you do it?
that coming up on the next Mallet and Michelle podcast. No, you know what? It's been a great ride. It really has, and I think the best part about it is he's trusted me more.
Well, I was actually going to say, when you guys check out, if you have the right person and you empower them to make the decision,
Exactly.
they will make good decisions.
100%.
It's when you have somebody and you don't quite trust them and you second guess everything they do, they tend to make bad decisions.
Yeah, for sure.
Does that mean you trust me? Did we just get that on tape?
No, that's not what that means.
Play it back.
Yeah.
Over and over.
What kind of opportunities do you see in the future in short-term
That's a
rentals?
great question.
Like fads or coming things that are good places for people, opportunities for people to look at.
Yeah, I think, in the past 2 years, a lot of people really thought they can do everything about it. And so you saw a lot of people launching who aren't really fit for the business. And so I think
Or the quirky properties.
Yeah, the quirky properties that are very theme oriented, like a Disney house. Well, it's like you're only appealing to a certain demographic and you're cutting everyone else
Or
out
a yurt.
kind of thing.
Oh, yeah, that's where we
The
stayed.
yurts, we
Yeah.
stayed in a yurt, and there was no bathroom in the yurt, so
Oh.
I got
gosh.
elbowed in the middle of the night. Like,
Oh, I
gotta
wasn't
go to
going
the-
out there.
I was
in
like, I gotta
pitch
go to the
black.
bathroom, and I was like, "That's cool, like go." And she's like, "No, you're coming with me."
Absolutely not.
Welcome to married life.
Yeah.
But I think moving forward, there is opportunities for people to really put themselves out there, and if they have the confidence in themselves and the capital to get it going, there is a lot of money to be made. But it is a full-time business, and it's not something you can just dedicate a few hours a day to. It's something that you need to be available for 24/7
Right.
because problems do happen 24/7.
Yeah, well, I already have a business like that.
Yeah.
With my real estate thing. So
Taking out
I
a
guess I'm
second.
just going to add it right
We're
on
just
top.
glutton for punishment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and as you guys as a management company as well, so you kind of take that that worry and that stress off of someone that wants to fully manage the day to day. So you guys will handle all the problems, the little small stuff for obviously for a fee.
Yeah.
Which is how typically
we take a 20% management fee usually. And what we sell our owners and what's true about what the service that we provide for people is you won't hear from us unless there is an issue that's over $500.
Oh.
And, if there is something over that, we'll call you and absolutely get approval for that. If there's no issues, you're not going to hear from us at all. You have a calendar that you can log into, see all the reservations online. You have a spreadsheet where you can see what your payouts are going to be. And you just get a check, by the 5th of the following month and just sit back and relax. Let us do all the
Steve's
dirty
like,
work.
you hit it right on the head. I was like, I want to learn how to do this, but I know at some point it may be too much, especially when
you start to,
the real estate world's a little bit slower now because
Absolutely.
the market changes. But 6-8 months ago, a year ago, there is absolutely no way I could have thought about doing this.
Yeah.
So when we get back to that, I don't know. I'll have to do something.
But then also when you start, not only are you getting the second, you have the second property, but if we start looking into a third and a fourth property, and at some point you want to retire, right? You want to travel. So where's that line where you're like, okay,
I'm ready to retire already.
I want to retire tomorrow.
Well, I was just going to say, what's next for you both? But there we go. You're going to retire.
For us, we're not quite done yet. We want to grow the business to be, between probably 30 and 50 listings and really have it be our, people always ask us, they're like, well, what else do you guys do? It's like nothing. This is our full-time, our full-time baby and our full-time what we do. We don't have another day job. Dina works in real estate still, but for me, this is day in, day out. This is what we do. So growing the business a little bit more and then, trying to diversify a little bit, whether we continue doing short-term rentals. I really enjoy the construction and remodeling aspect of things. So we have a new build that we're building in Franklin Park that takes up a good amount of my time as well as just, overseeing contractors and dealing with all kinds of issues.
You guys are, for being as young as you are, God, y'all are impressive.
How young do you think we are?
Really? You are
a lot younger than us.
A lot younger than us. Yeah. For sure.
I was reading before you guys came on. There's somewhere around 1.3 million short-term rental listings in the country, and 70% of them are small business owners, just like you two.
Yeah.
What do you think sets you apart from other people, other business owners like this? Dina all of a sudden doesn't want to answer the question.
I think it comes back to our communication and the service that we provide for people, both for our clients that we manage their properties and for the guests that are staying in our homes and their homes. It's, I'm a firm believer in killing people with kindness. And, when
I just like to kill people.
Also, I feel
like what she said.
Nowadays we're trying to figure out ways to stand apart from other Airbnbs. And people love that like Instagram shot. Yeah. So we're trying to go, think out of the box and
social media influencers.
Exactly.
Yeah. You want a place in the property where they can stand in front of and take a picture and advertise
Tag us.
for you.
Like,
a mural, a neon sign, people are doing like flower walls or like they do
wallpapers,
artificial grass, now. With a neon sign, kind of like you see at a wedding or something like that. So we just did a new property.
Selfie wall. That is something that I hadn't thought of. That's interesting. Alrighty,
people
then.
love that.
Yeah, so we just did a neon sign that's like keep Boston weird. Everyone that's going to come to that house is going to take a picture in front of that sign.
Are these inside or outside?
Inside for the most part. Yeah. At the ranch property, we're about to do a really big mural. It's going to be like 17 by 10, I think, or something like that. That'll be like dripping springs and have a little bit of Infinity Ranch mixed into it as well. So a place where people can just advertise for us,
Yeah, I love that. So you got your cup here. Is it Dijo Homes?
Dijo Homes.
What's that? What's Dijo?
Yeah, so we're Dina and Joey. We took the first two letters and just smashed them together. In Spanish, we get Dijo Homes a lot.
Yeah.
But
we're Stima.
Where can people find you?
So we're on Instagram at Dijo Homes. We've been trying to up our reel game.
Yes.
So we found that that's kind of like a big way to get followers because everyone's watching video content nowadays.
And Michelle and I were just talking about that before you guys came in. That it's something we're going to have to start getting better
It's
at.
really
It's
difficult.
hard,
Yeah,
and
you'll make the best video that in your mind is the best video, and it'll get maybe like 100 views, and then you'll take a video of nothing and just put a song over it, and it gets hundreds of thousands of views.
We've experienced the same thing. I did a real thoughtful one about real estate stuff, and it got like 300 views. And then I did one of me releasing a possum in my backyard from the trap, and it got like 12,000
It's
views.
crazy.
It's like, yeah, who
The less
knows?
work you put into it, the better
more
it'll
it
do.
blows
That's,
up.
That's what we're learning.
Yeah. So we're on Instagram. We have a website, a booking website also. We're on Airbnb, Vrbo, and then we'll soon be on booking.com. So
Yeah.
Well, good for you.
But yeah, if you go to djohomes.com, you can see all about us, and there's a link there to book directly with us as well.
Yeah. So people should reach out to you if they've got a property that they think can do short-term rentals, or they're doing them and they're completely overwhelmed.
Absolutely. Yeah. Some
I'll
of
be
our
calling
clients,
you.
Yeah. Some of our clients are, hey, we've been doing this and we don't want to do this anymore. You do it for us. And honestly, with the clients that we've helped out in those cases, we're actually still making them more money than they were making on their own, even after our 20% management fee, because we're able to add a professional element to it, get
more
real,
bookings,
shots, and have that wider range to capture people. So we're still netting them more, even with paying us our commission.
Cracks me up how many people put their $750 a night house on Airbnb with cell phone pictures.
Oh my gosh.
It's terrible.
Yeah, but same with real estate though sometimes.
Well, that's true, Dina.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah, look at my $1.5 million listing
Here's
that I snapped
my
with my
iPhone.
iPhone 6.
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't bother cleaning up this closet that, we shot a nice picture of.
Right.
I told Steve early on, I said, I think that is kind of the advantage of when we were doing this short-term rental at the very beginning is because I'm in real estate, and because when I stage, I think very consciously of what type of buyer is going to be buying this property.
Yep.
And in doing the short-term rental, it was like I was trying to be very authentic of who's going to stay here, and not just have a couch and a bed and a lamp, and not just have the basics, actually have an experience.
Be
and enjoy the
thoughtful.
moment.
And, we always try to think of the functionality of things. So,
And especially when we remodel the homes also with our clients, it's a little bit more difficult, but homes that are ours, we remodel to be functional for Airbnbs also. And, moving light switches around to places they're supposed to be, and making homes really, what I like to say is making a house feel like a home more so, and give it that cozy element. And, you reach up from the bed, you want the plug to be right there, kind of thing, not on the other side of the room where you got to run an extension cord and kind of thing. So just thinking about all that stuff really goes along.
I like how you guys are doing it. And I've learned a lot about my business in this.
And that's why Steve and I are now invited to Bezos Lake Home, because we have spent so much money on Amazon.
It was like an endless parade of Amazon trucks at that house.
Oh my
just
gosh.
nonstop.
Yeah,
I even got to know
know
one of the
real well.
drivers
Yeah.
real well. Yeah, shout out to Jose.
It's a true story.
Well, Joey and Dina, thank you so much for coming on. I learned a
Absolutely.
lot from you both, and we really appreciate it.
thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
This show is brought to you in part by the Mallet Integrity Team, serving Dripping Springs, Austin, and the surrounding areas of Central Texas since 2004. When you need the best real estate advice and service, give them a call at 512-829-2062 or email them at malletintegrityteam.com.
Thanks for listening.
If you have comments or feedback, please email us at malletandmichelle@gmail.com.
Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Mallet and Michelle.
Listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher.
Please follow us and leave a review.
Thanks again for listening.